Whenever you're ready.
So, ladies and gentlemen, today is one of those rare special days. You know, I've had done so many interviews of great astrologers, masters, and today is this one rare gem that I spoke to you guys about on my Facebook page as well. I'm like, when this man comes on my channel, I know this channel will be definitely be worth something. And today I have an absolute honor and pleasure of inviting this rare, and I'm going to call him master, even though he probably won't like that, but rare master of nakshatra and astrology. And he will not, you have not heard of him. You will never have heard of him in any books or conferences, but I found him through his amazing books of Rahu Ketu experience and his 27 celestial portals, which is like my Bible to understand nakshatras. So please help me welcome, and these books are available on Amazon, so please get them. Please help me welcome Parash Trivedi.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite an intro, but the thing is that...
That's not enough. It's not enough.
No, it's just that the whole point of Jyotish and everything is actually self-discovery, right? Like, you just want to know about your own chart, basically.
Yeah.
You know, people have questions like, who am I? Like, what is this? Like, you know, where am I? And all these questions are there. So basically, like, my study started in that way only, like, because I was just learning my own chart.
Yeah.
And then when I looked into the books which were available at that time, and I found that they were not really helpful in the sense, like, you know, they just say like, okay, if Jupiter is this in this house, this happens, or this doesn't happen, you get this, or if he's in third house, this happens, or this doesn't happen, or these kind of books were there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and a lot of things are very like Middle Ages sort of things are there even in the name of Parasharas, which is what Vedic astrology is based on.
Yeah.
You know, like that has been tampered with over the last 2,000-3,000 years, you know. And so in the Middle Ages, people have added their own things, you know, you'll get that many cows or
that's right.
that many goats, or like, I mean, these kind of things are there, like Middle Ages kind of things.
Like classical language.
No, it's not even classical. It's just like last 1,000 years, 2,000 years.
1,000 years. Okay.
Yeah, it's not like a thing from the Vedic times or anything.
Oh,
like
I see.
Because the texts get tampered with, you know, as they pass through things, as things are happening at the time. You know, right now people are telling, you know, you'll go into computer science just by looking at charts right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 100 years ago, they won't be doing that, would they? So,
absolutely.
Like, so according to the times, these things keep on changing, like the interpretations and stuff like that. So I thought like you can't really rely on the texts which are there, or people, whatever they're writing in the books. It seemed very too generic and too vague.
Yes.
And too much like gain, loss, all these kind of things, you know, nothing to do with the actual knowing of yourself. Like, as far as the energies were concerned, like, for example, nakshatras, you talked about the nakshatra book.
Yeah.
The thing with nakshatras was that there was no information on them. Like, Parashar mentions them, 27 of them. There's this one page in Parashar.
Yeah, very little information on
it. Yeah, there's nothing there. Pretty much like, it's like one page and you just names are there and that's it.
Yeah.
But the good thing was that I started thinking that I should observe things, because there's no Rishikul to go to right now. Like, earlier times you could go to Rishis and you can go to the ashram and learn it because they have the knowledge already. Then you could, but nothing like that exists right now. Nobody has that much knowledge, or nothing is there because all of that has been lost.
Yeah.
So I decided to observe myself, you know, like, because moon passes through one nakshatra every day.
Yeah.
24 hours, like every 24 hours, moon passes through one nakshatra. So if you can observe that day for yourself and that nakshatra is passing, then you will get some information on that nakshatra just by seeing the moon pass every day. So that's what I started doing when I was in IIT Delhi. Like, when I was first started learning Jyotish, that's what I started doing. And then I wrote some notes for myself, and those notes have become this book right now, which you have.
Wow.
Basically. Yeah.
This was from like your daily observations.
Yeah, it is just like a general observation, like, because with nakshatra it's very simple, because moon will go through.
Yeah.
One every day. So that cycle will repeat every 27 days, 28 days. So you can observe that cycle every 28 days, 27 days, 28 days. Like, you can see it on a mass level, you can see it on a personal level, you can see it on any level, on a collective level, mass level, anybody. You can, in many ways, you can see like, okay, these events only happen on this nakshatra, or this events only happen on this one, or this one's energy is like this one's energy is like that, you know, like, you can start observing things, because the whole sign thing is very clear, you know, like from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know, you can tell from head to toe sort of thing, Aries to Pisces, and
Yes.
you have some kind of thing that Aries is the head and the Taurus is the face and that thing. So those things are there already. With nakshatras, those things are not in that way. Like, so they are different. So, but the moons, but because it's a more a lunar thing, because with the moon, you can easily tell. If the moon is giving such a result in a nakshatra, then other planets pass, like whether it's Sun, Jupiter, Mars, or anything, they will give similar results as per the nakshatra's quality. Added with the quality of the planet itself. Or the planet's own qualities, most people know.
Right.
They don't need to be taught that. I mean that also you can observe, like what is Martianness, what is solarness, what is lunarness, what is Venusianness, what is Saturnine. I mean, these are just qualities, and these archetypes are having those archetypical qualities.
So now we also hear that nakshatras are not really controlled by a planet, like Ashlesha is not really controlled by Mercury, or Purvashada is not really controlled by Venus. What is the truth in that?
No, it's nothing like that. I mean, it's a combined energy. If you say Purvashada, all right, so it is in Sagittarius, and Venus is the Lord. So Jupiter and Venus both are involved. So since Jupiter, Venus both are involved, it will be more expansive. When you look at Ashwini, you should see Mars, Ketu. You should never see Ketu.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to look at it as Mars, Ketu, not Ketu. Like, because it's in Aries. So that Martian energy is there, Ketu energy is there. And on top of it, you should see it as like a solar energy.
How do we combine that? Like,
because Sun gets exalted there.
Okay. So I see what you're saying. Okay.
What is Aries exactly? Like when Sun rises first time in the morning, right? What's called Usha, first Kiran, first rays. That is Ashwini. The first sunrise. Yeah, all right. Like, so there's a particular kind of atmosphere at that time. Like whenever you say Ashwini, you have to think many things. You have to think like a horse. What is a horse's nature?
Right.
You have to think sunrise. You have to think sunrise, horse. You have to think Mars, Ketu together, and Sun. These many factors you have to think immediately. All these factors have to come into play immediately. Like it's an automatic thing. If you bring things down to how nature has them, then it's easier to understand things. What the thing with the Jyotish right now is it's totally dissociated from nature.
Yes, very true.
Yeah,
very true.
Yeah. Like if you're like the Jyotishis of right now, they have got nothing to do with nature at all. They've never been in nature. They're living in those kind of buildings, and they've never been in nature. They don't know what.
Yeah.
They've never seen a sunrise even in their whole lives.
Yeah.
And if you've not seen that, like you can't really tell about Ashwini or anything like that. You've got no idea.
Yeah. That is you. That makes so much more sense, man.
Yeah. So this is the thing. Like I was completely at odds with all the so-called Jyotishis which were there in India, because in India people have gone so against nature anyways. Like you're saying, people don't. In the West, people will still go out to like camping or something like that, or they'll try to.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in India, there is just no like culture of going into nature.
Oh yeah, no, it's so amazing.
If you go to I had made a trip to the Hopi, and actually I don't know if you know about it, and
Hopi Indians.
Many times. I've been to like all the empty areas in Arizona for 10-20 times actually in my life. And there's a place called Parashant National Park, which is the same as my name, Prashant.
Okay.
It was funny that the biggest national park in US, it is the biggest area-wise, has my name. So I just wanted to go there to just see what it was actually. And it's a totally desolate open area, but there's nothing there at all. Like there's no people for 40 miles any which way.
Wow.
Like at all. Like it's like that desolate. Like it's all to yourself, So like because I've gone all around the world. I've been to whatever natural place exists on this earth. I've been there. So
wow. What is your opinion on Sedona? Like actually being in Sedona around those?
Yeah, Sedona is like very like just this town and city itself is very commercial and very that. But if you move away from that thing, like around 10 miles, then there are a lot of good places. But mostly good places are more on the border of Utah and Arizona, in the border area.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where the big rock formations and
the red rock formation.
All of those things are on the border of Utah and Arizona, actually. Like that's the area which I found, which is much more that thing. But the whole thing was this, like if you have a connection to nature, you will learn Jyotish in a very different manner. Like normal astrologers, just from bookish knowledge, you can't learn. That's why I didn't release any more books. After these 2 books, I didn't release any more books at all. I was asked to, the publisher wanted more because they were selling quite a bit. So the Indian publisher wanted more, but I just didn't think that is the way, things can be learned or anything like that, because I'm very old style. You can consider me like very old school, old school in the sense like Vedic way. My thing is that only the Vedic way works.
Yeah.
Like the modern systems, like Western systems of education, and they don't really work. They don't really teach you anything practical for your own self, which you can evolve yourself or anything like that. The whole Gurukul system, where there was a being which was actually much more evolved and much more sorted and much more coherent than you.
A true teacher, yeah.
Yeah, like right now the teachers which are teachers in schools or anywhere or anything, they're not teachers of any kind. They don't know anything themselves. For example, they are teaching people that we live on a ball earth. Like we live on ball. Earth is a ball. Earth is not a ball. Earth is flat and Earth is stationary. Earth is not spinning around the sun. I mean, this will come as a surprise to all of your listeners, but this is a fact. Earth is not a ball.
Wow.
And Earth is stationary. And all of Jyotish is based on Earth being stationary. All of Jyotish's mathematics, everything is based on Earth being stationary. Earth is a flat stationary plane. If you go into the whole Vedic thing, you'll come to know that there are planes of existence, like the Bhu Mandal, Bhuva, Swaha. No, it's nothing. Like this ball was a theory which was given by everything you have been taught at school first is wrong.
Yeah.
Everything. When I say everything, it means everything. Like whatever they taught you at school is a lie. Okay. First, number one, because that is to keep you give you an impression that you know something when you don't. Even if you go anywhere on a plane, or you'll always see the horizon is flat. You go anywhere on Earth, even if you look at the flight routes, you'll come to know that there is no round the world flight which goes in that way. If you look at flight routes, you'll come to know that Earth is flat. People in Chicago, they can, across the lake, they can see the city. If Earth had curvature, which per mile, 8 inches, the Earth's curve will go down 8 inches per mile. So if you're looking 40 miles, so it'll be 40 multiplied by 8 inches. That's how much the thing will be going down. Things should be 100 feet below, 200 feet below, over a line of sight of 40 miles. But you can still see the city.
What is at the bottom? What is there? How is it hanging?
That's where the planes, that's where Patal came. The whole concept of Patal. Patal is
what the demons are.
They're not demons exactly. According to the Vedic things, they're not called demons, right? Nagas live in Patal too, but there are various kind of beings which exist. Now the modern thing, they know that now they call them aliens. There are new terms which come.
People living in the earth.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but hollow earth is a concept which is from flat earth only. The thing was, they wanted to give us an impression that we are just on a little ball floating away in space somewhere aimlessly. There's a big galaxy and you are just a little ball floating around in a little system aimlessly in space. That was the whole plan, to give a sense that none of this is important. Your life is not important. Earth is not important. You are just a little speck of dust floating around aimlessly, so that people have aimless lives. That's what the whole plan was. That's why they gave us this ball earth theory. It was a well thought out lie. Just like an alien is a lie, like a lie. The word alien is a lie. Like A-L-I-E, lie.
A lie.
A lie. But first you have to understand one thing. West has never given one shred of truth about anything.
I believe that now, yeah.
Oh, okay. But everything West has told is a lie. Everything. So whatever we have textbooks in school, they have been written by who? The people from the West, right? The so-called West. It's so-called West. It's not West, but it's so-called West.
Yeah.
So they have written all those books, and there's nothing true about there's gravity. There's no such thing called gravity. Now people are coming to know that there's no such thing called gravity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is only density. There's nothing called gravity. There's electromagnetism. There's no gravity at all. There's no force called gravity. They just.
So what keeps us on the ground instead of going?
Density.
Density.
Density is a term. Density is different. Air is less dense than you are.
Right.
The density of air is less than your density. So obviously you will come down. Yeah, it's not like you have two objects which will keep on attracting each other all the time. Your chair is not attracting you right now. Just because it has mass and you have mass, you're not attracted to your chair. It's not because of that. No two objects are attracting each other in that way. If I go into the science of it, there's so many things. The whole Vedic thing has got truths in it. That we are actually living on a planes of existence. There are planes above, there are planes below us. And that's why Earth is called a planet. Planet means plane.
Planet, yeah.
Planet, plane. Plane, crossing, T. Plane, T. T is for crossing. Wherever you have a T junction, what is a T junction? Like, it's a crossing. So when you cross over from one plane to other plane, that's all. Like when you're dying, when your physical body dies, when your spirit comes out, you're crossing over from one plane to another plane.
So also but I heard in Vedic system, they actually told us that how sun is 93 million miles away.
No, Vedic never said that.
They calculated it was 108 times something that.
No, all falsities, all misinterpretations of the texts. Like right now they've come up with all kinds of numbers. They've come up with numbers for like Kali Yuga is 4,32,000 years.
Yeah.
There's no text where that is written. There is no Vedic text where that is written. These numbers are absolutely false and made up numbers. Like if you have a theory, you can make anything sound like it. You can take any text and corrupt it and make it sound like it. Just like in Jyotish, if nobody is going to go word per word of Parashar Hora Shastra even. There's so many things written in it. Like you can't go word by word on it.
Yeah.
That will be completely foolish. You don't know who has written those words when. What Rishi Parashar actually wrote, or he would have spoken, he wouldn't have written first.
Yeah, that's true.
He would have spoken to somebody and the disciples would have heard it. That's all. And that he's hearing, like the whole book starts like Shiv spoke to Parvati. So Rishi is just hearing what Shiv is saying to Parvati, basically. And whatever he got from that, he spoke. And over last 5,000, 10,000 years, how much of that would have changed? You can well imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, even if you put 20 people in a line and you say something to the person in the front, what will come out from the 20th person in the back will be totally different from what the person said on the first that day.
Right.
That's human nature right now. Like, so you have to take that into account. The whole thing is that the truth of anything, if people have to find out, like that's why Jyotish is much bigger for me than just predicting or anything like that. It is the whole what we live inside. Like we are beings and we are inside of something. That is the concept. We are inside of something and that thing has laws. Whatever we are inside has some laws. It has some basis and it functions on the basis of that. The moment we come to know these laws, the better it will be for us. Because then we can go by those laws.
Yeah.
And if you go by these laws, then you won't have to follow the laws of the man-made laws. Like people like you're in America right now, so you'll follow American laws, whatever laws are there in America, and whatever you will drive on right, and you will do whatever,
Exactly.
Yeah. But the main thing is to follow the laws of the multiverse. That is much more important. Because if you break those laws, the penalty is much more. If you break these laws, maximum you'll go to prison out there. What's the big deal? Like there's nothing, the man-made things are not important. Yeah.
Somehow, some way, they were able to create computer programs, iPhones, iPads.
Yeah, but all of that is not from the West. What the computers are based on right now is 0 1.
Yeah.
Right. And 0 1s it's a more hexadecimal. It's a Middle East concept. It's an Egyptian concept.
Right.
Yeah. The whole thing, what is computer programs right now, can be attributed to Egypt much more than the West. They were just good at digging scrolls, taking the things from there and applying and implementing them.
Like Bill Gates able to create a software out of that.
That is totally different. When you, like even the truth of those things, they will not tell you.
That's very true. Yeah.
Like for example, if you just look at a television, like television was CRT, cathode ray tube. Okay. Now cathode ray tubes, when they were first in the 19th century, when they were first brought into being, they were actually not for television at all. They were trying to contact the other side, the spirit world. So when you used to send the halo through it, a green light used to form. And spirits could actually communicate to you by writing letters on that green light.
What?
So that is the truth of what television is. Became television later, So, there's an occult significance to every technology which you know of right now, which they won't tell you at school. Right now, people don't really know how things work. If they have a chip inside your computer right now, you won't know exactly how that chip works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the secret part. Okay. There are secrets everywhere still. It's not like secrets are there in plain sight right now. But people, just because people use something doesn't mean that they know about it.
Yeah, absolutely true.
And on software level is a very surface level thing. That's where all of Indians are, in the software level. But that's not where it's at. Everything is at the hardware level. That's where the real secrets are.
Yeah.
Not at the software level. There's nothing that any monkey can do. Once you teach it a language, that's its language.
And that's its language, yeah.
You learn English, you learn Sanskrit, you learn Tamil, or you learn Bangla, or
exactly.
It doesn't matter. Like that's on another level completely. The actual esoteric occult secrets of technology are not known to people, and what it is for, even the whole thing. Like, for example, if I told you that, like, why Ethernet is called Ethernet in that thing is because it is connected to the ether. You think internet is not connected to the ether? It is connected to the ether. That's why the thing which is called, it's called Ethernet.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Because it is connected to the ether. But that they'll not tell you. There's no school book which will tell you that, and how it is connected to the ether, what is ether, all of those things will not be explained to you, because knowledge is power. And the beings who are in charge of this whole plane right now, they don't want the masses to come to know anything, because that's how they keep their power.
Very true.
Yeah. So the masses should not come to know anything. Now, again, Jyotish is just one of the aspect of the laws of the multiverse. Like, it's coming to know what the laws of the multiverse are. For example, if you know some nakshatra's energy, that this energy is there right now, either you can go along with it or you can go anti it, right? Until you know, you will never come to know. Like, people right now will do anything any day. When you don't know the laws, you will do anything any day. You will not have any sense of when to do what.
Yeah.
And you'll break the laws unknowingly because you don't know.
You don't know, yeah.
Yeah. But with multiverse, you can't say that I didn't know, so I broke the laws because I didn't know. Just like in America, you can't just be driving on the left and then tell the cop I didn't know. You can't do that, can you?
No.
Yeah. Okay. In the same way, but multiverse is much more cops than America is. The power of those laws is much more important. And that's something which Indians definitely need to understand. Because Indians follow rules and laws of this world. The man-made laws, which people have made, and which are not important. Like, they are not important at all. They're just man-made nonsense. Like you say, whether you follow them or not, that's not going to increase your power.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you follow the multiversal laws, your power increases. And
what type of laws is that? I mean, compared to the man-made laws?
Like, I'll give you an example. Like Jyotish, I was telling you with the nakshatras. Like,
yeah.
If a nakshatra is there, for example, right now, Magha is there. Right now, we are speaking in Magha, right? Isn't it? That's moon is going through Magha right now.
Mm-hmm.
So Magha has a certain kind of energy. In way you can do certain activities and can't do certain activities.
Bringing the knowledge of the Pitris. In this conversation today.
Yeah. So, like, we can go by the energy of what the thing is right now. I'm talking about very old Vedic things, which was like the ancient Vedic. And that's what Magha is about. Like, going to the very root ancient heritage you have got. So the whole thing about Jyotish is about the Vedic heritage, actually, to me, which we have, which Indians don't pay any attention to. I'll give you a law. Like, law is this, like I'm saying, if you come across a being which is more evolved than you, you immediately praise it, bow to it. That was the Vedic law. You immediately praise it and you bow to it. That's the Vedic law. If you broke that law, then you were always in trouble. Like, if a rishi comes in front of you, you have to immediately praise and bow. Otherwise, it will not be good for you. You can't go higher. That's a multiversal law. It's a Vedic law. It's nothing which Westerners know about, and they don't practice it. They don't even practice it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a law which is known from the Vedic antiquity itself. When I was growing up, when I was 10, 11, I read Amar Chitra Kathas. You know Amar Chitra Kathas?
No.
These are these comic books, which have all the Vedic stories in comic books.
Okay.
That was my first learning about the laws of the multiverse. What the actual laws are. All the stories are there. From that, you come to know how to behave. What is the behavior required between any beings? Beings are here. We are inside something. We are inside this multiverse. We are inside this Brahmand. You can call it anything, and there are beings. How do we behave with each other? What do we do? Like, how do I behave with myself? How do we behave with others? Like you say, all that is as per the multiversal law, which was based on higher and lower. I mean, in Vedic things, there are higher beings and there are lower beings. There are more powerful beings and there are less powerful beings. You can put it any which way. But the Westerners in the West, they didn't want people to evolve, so they took out the whole higher and lower. Everybody's equal. They brought out nonsense like everybody's equal, which is not. Everybody's not equal in the West even. Like, that's why they're giving gold medal to somebody and bronze medal to somebody. Some people are so rich and some people are so poor in the West even. Like, there are all kinds of classes and castes in the West as well.
Yeah.
But they don't talk about it. But they would like to give the illusion to the masses that everybody's equal. When nothing works like that, actually, in reality. In reality, nobody's equal. And that's a fact. But they want to give this delusion and illusion so that people don't know how to behave with each other.
Wow.
You know? And they'll behave in a wrong manner. And in that way, when they behave in a wrong manner, they will actually bring bad karma onto themselves and they'll go lower. And the lower your status, the more of a slave you will be to the system.
That is very true.
Yeah. So the whole point is to create slaves. And what do you have to do to create slaves is reduce their power. And how do you reduce their power? By cutting them off from multiversal laws.
Wow. That is...
Yeah.
You're like the David Icke. You know what?
No, but I was just trying to tell you that Jyotish is not just Jyotish for me. Like,
Yeah.
you have to understand it is a part of a bigger concept. I just can't handle this kind of thing that we just have to talk in this very narrow bandwidth. I can't have that narrow a bandwidth to talk about anything. You know, for me, Jyotish is not different from music. You know, I've been doing a lot of music. I can give you my YouTube channel. You can go and check it out.
Oh, absolutely. What's your YouTube channel?
It's called Lotus Ocean.
Lotus Ocean. Please
Lotus
subscribe.
Yeah, Lotus Ocean. You can go out there. To me, like I made different sounds for each planet. I'll have made sounds for
Oh man, I gotta check that out.
for Sun, for Jupiter, for Saturn, for Mercury, for everybody. Like I made sounds for different nakshatras, even what Dhanishtas, Sonics are like, Shadbishaks are like, Purvabhat, but everybody's. Yeah, you experience it. When you experience it, then you know what it is. Internally, you know it. If you are being living with a person, for example, like you are living with whosoever people, you know that people because you know them. You've been dealing with them. Nakshatras are for experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, if you experienced it, then you can put it into music, and you can put it into verbal form. You can put it into many forms.
In nakshatras, how there are 4 padhas.
Yeah.
What do you give any meaning to? Okay, padha 1 should mean this, like dharma, karma, moksha. I mean, what?
No, nothing like that. No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay.
You have to go by exact things. What nakshatra? For example, if you're dealing with the 4th pada of, like say, Jeshta, that will be a Gandanta pada. Water signs going into fire signs.
Yeah.
But there's a logic for it. So you don't have to learn that from a book. You have to use your own logic in the sense that whenever fire and water will meet together, things will be combustible. Like in nature, if you put water into fire or fire into water, you immediately get a like that thing. So that happens where Scorpio and Sagittarius are meeting. Scorpio is water sign, Sagittarius fire. And the end 4th pada of that is 27 degrees to 30 degrees, 0 degree to that thing. There will be combustibility there. So those padas, like you can't say the 4th pada will be same for every nakshatra.
Right.
For Ashlesha, that would not be the case because it will be ending for Pushya, it won't be the case because Pushya will be ending within the sign cow cat. And again, I don't call it Cancer. I call it cow cat. Name of a disease should not be the name of a sign because it's a cow nakshatra. Because Pushya is all about cows. So it's all about cows. Ashlesha was cat as a catty nakshatra, right? Cat, and so it's a cow cat sort of thing. I called it like for English people because English language is like a spell. Every time you speak, you create a spell. That's why it's there. It has spelling in it.
Spelling, yes.
Yeah. So it's a spell. So when you speak a spell properly, then only it works. If you don't know the English language properly, and if you don't know the roots of words, you will never understand anything. For example, if you say physics, the word physics, you will keep on saying physics. Even if you go to a professor in university who is a professor of physics, you can ask him, what does physics mean? He will not be able to answer you. You can go to any university in this world and ask the professor of physics, just tell me what the word physics means. You are a professor of physics, just tell me what that means. And they won't be able to tell you. Because that's how hollow their learning is in these institutions. They're not for teaching you anything. Physics comes from the word phi, phi. Phi means golden ratio.
Yeah.
And 6 comes from the root scissor, cutting. Cutting up of phi ratios. That's all physics is. Cutting up of phi ratio. And what is phi ratio? You see Vishnu sitting always. And he has got a conch in his hand. Every image of Vishnu will have conch in his hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Shankh.
Shankh.
Yeah. Shankh has the spiral which is in Shankh is a golden mean spiral. That is phi ratio. And all of the nature out here on earth is based on that ratio. All the leaves, all the trees, everything, the whole earth.
Like the Fibonacci sequence.
No, that Fibonacci sequence, that it has a visual representation.
Yeah.
Ratio. Yeah. So it's called golden mean spiral. So that's what phi ratio is. So they will not teach you this at school. Even if you take the word chemistry or any word, chemistry, biology, anything, chemistry, you won't know what chemistry means. Chemistry comes from the word chem. Chem was an Egyptian word. History of chem. Chem means blackness. History means the history of blackness from the black void from which the universe came out. That's what it means. All of these things are not taught to people. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, because that's where power lies. And Jyotish is connected to that. Like, I mean, you can't be a Jyotishi if you don't know the English language properly from inside out. And if you don't know Sanskrit properly, you can't be Jyotishi either. And when I mean Sanskrit properly, it doesn't mean that you say 100 shloks all the time from your mouth. You have to know the root of things. Like when you say ka. Ka is the first of Devanagari script. What is it? Ka, ga, ga. You know,
Yeah.
Ka. So ka is the first word, right? What is ka? Like people don't know what ka is. Ka means charge. Charge, like electricity, charge.
Electric charge, okay.
Charge. Like, which became ka in Egyptian. Which became Kabbalah.
Kabbalah.
Which became Kaaba of the Muslims. Kaaba. What is Ba? Ba is vehicle. A vehicle. So charge vehicle. A vehicle on which charge flows.
Charge.
If you know the nakshatra where the word Ka is, will be in Adra. Each nakshatras are associated to different letters. And how that energy corresponds to that, you will have to know all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is Jyotish actually connects to linguistics and everything. It is not separate from linguistics even. If you don't know those things, you can't know about nakshatras. It's all interconnected and interwoven. The whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So the subject is very vast in that way. You have to know the numbers, you have to know numerology for sure. You have to know linguistics, root meanings of letters from the very basic core, what they are. Word makes the world. Word makes world. L. If word and world only, and L is different. Only one L is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what is L? L just means turning. You're taking a turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. L is just a turn. Which is the word L meant the turning from light to matter or from matter to light. So that's how word made the world. And that's how that transformation took place. You can either turn a circle into a line or line back into circle. That's
like with this knowledge that you have, I feel like you're this character from that movie They Live, where you wear the glasses and you see the people.
All around. They could never bring me down. They are all around. They could never bring me down. They are all around. They could never bring me down. They are all around. They could never bring me down. We are all going to die.